be answered. And although the
Hey, everybody, welcome to another live stream episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. I just thought I'd jump in a little early since I'm here and just get the channel open uh, so people can start participating if they wanted to, because it has been an interesting year for watches and watch collecting and the industry. Actually, when you think about it, there's been a lot of things going on, and I made a little list, and I hope that everyone participates. I just noticed I've got bad shadow from the microphone, so I'll just put it right here. That should be okay. I'll just put it off, at least have it generally pointed in the right direction. But it's the same mic I've been using. I just put the additional, guard on it again because people were talking about my plosives and the like. 1 second here. There we go. Adjust it a little bit more. There we go. That's one of the things. One of the things when you're working all by yourself doing this is that you don't have a crew, so you do a lot of it by yourself. But as far as the year goes, we've been doing very well with this community. We've broken 4,000 subscribers now, which I'm very, very pleased and impressed about. That yeah, we're growing, and you're part of it. This is a community. We're all part of it together, and the more of us that participate, the better the channel functions. So, as far as, like I said, the year, we did break 2,000. We went originally 1,000, which is the minimum to get monetized and to be allowed to do live streams like this 2 years ago. So we managed to go from, yeah, 1,000 in September 2 years ago to 4,000 December of this year. So a little over 2 years to add 3,000 subscribers. I think we're doing quite well. So let's look at the list. I put together a actual list of all kinds of little things, and let's start with some of the industry news that I have here. I mean, the Blancpain swatch, was a really interesting addition to the swatch portfolio, as it were, another special edition that went really, really well. Um, Not as well as the Speedmaster. It's not like people went nuts over it, but lines, waiting lists, colors that not everyone can get. That's all there. So, when you think about it, it was quite successful for Swatch, especially if you tack it on to the fact that it's building on what they've done with the Moon Swatch. A lot of people are wondering what the next watch company to be, to have a special edition from Swatch. The trouble is, pardon me. The trouble is that there aren't that many Swatch Group companies. Pardon me, I'm still fighting a little bit of a chest cold. There aren't that many Swatch Group companies that are both a high end to the point where they're um, ambitious, achievable watches like the Speedmaster, like the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Um, a Swatch Special Edition shouldn't. Well, I mean, they might try something with Hamilton or with Mito or something like that. Uh, Maybe some of the other brands in the stable, but it's going to be interesting to see how uh, they the Swatch Group builds on the momentum that they developed with the Speed, Master. Well, it's a special edition. I did a whole episode on how it's not really an homage, and the Blancpain special edition. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they go with this. They milked the Speedmaster special edition with those specialty lunar special editions, like with the gold second hand and the colored second hand and all of that. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see how the Swatch Group manages to maintain their momentum with these special edition watches, if at all. I mean, they may just figure we did a great job with the Moon Swatch and the Blancpain Scuba. We're done for now. Although it strikes me as too appealing a well to not try to go back for another drink. You know what I mean? Now, let's see. The Blue Omega collection for the anniversary that went over very, very well in the industry as well. The separate, the different shades of blue, they went darker the deeper the watch was intended to go. That was a nice touch. But the Blue Omega collection is another example of people often complain about too many special editions out there, too many different specialty watches being released. But my feeling is that better to have a bunch of different editions that people can then pick and choose amongst what style they like and build upon than everybody try to have the same black diver watch. You know, there's an appeal to variety and diversity and interesting choices within the marketplace. Um, Comebacks. There are a lot of companies that were dead or dying or went comatose during the quartz wars that have made serious comebacks. Some just maintained themselves and came out of coma and continued to move forward. Um, I would put Ratto in the realm of, like, at the edge of that. Ratto wasn't out and down and on the streets, as it were, but didn't have a lot of traction in the marketplace until the Captain Cook really started to move along. Hey, how's it going, Jimmy? Hope you're doing well. Uh, Happy New Year. But I also started a little early because this way we have a little bit of time to get rolling. And I'm going to probably close this episode on time so I can run out and celebrate the new year. It's 10 o'clock, a little after 10 right now here in Germany. And so I'm going to end the episode like around 11. If, I'll end it earlier if there's no traction. I don't try to keep the air empty if I don't get a lot of, I mean, maybe everybody's out partying and there's not a lot of input tonight. And we just talk a little bit about what's going on in the market and I sign off. But if you have an idea or a thought or an input on what you think is some interesting stuff that happened this year, now's a good time. Hey, Happy New Year from Long Island. Take the curse off the washing machine. Hey, TH. Vulcane, I think, was a company that came back very nicely. They're doing really well. And a lot of people have been talking about Nevada Grinchen. And Nevada Grinchen just recently, so in this year, um, came out with a watch that helps people respect them a little bit more. They did a limited edition with the Value 23 movement in it. They got some old their hands on some old Value 23 movements, and they put them in a limited edition of Nevada Grinchen reissues. So an example of companies that are new, come back into the marketplace and yet are making pieces that make collectors and make the industry recognize that these are not just someone buying a brand and slapping the name on some new watches and calling it a day and saying, "See, we're back." Nevada Grinchen, is an example of a company that's really putting some effort into their comeback. 39, oh no, Jimmy John. I'm really excited by the new 39 Heritage Diver by Longines, the 39 millimeter. Yeah, well, Jimmy, that's an interesting one because they had the 42, and now with the 39, they're getting a lot of attention. See, now Longines is an example of a company that I wouldn't say was ever comatose, but was considered a little bit of a lame duck. That little bit of a, dumpy sister, as it were. But recently, Longines has picked up a lot of traction as well. The Spirit line is doing really well, and everyone is happy with the new Hydro Conquest, especially the new GMT. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one myself. I don't know if I'm going to try to finagle a borrower or if I'll actually buy one because it's a nice piece. And I had the Spirit Zulu Time GMT, which was a really nice watch. I sold it because at the time I had my Omega Seamaster GMT as well, and that was two blue. Uh, the Zulu Time was an aviator, but it was a sport GMT, as it were, and I don't have that many spaces in my collection for various similar watches. But now that I've sold the Seamaster GMT, I'm open to get my hands on the Longines Hydro Conquest GMT. I think that's a good looking watch and very diver. I mean, it is a diver watch, but I mean, it's not your stereotypical let's look like a submariner diver, which is one of the reasons I like the Captain Cook, which is a good example of Ratto. They're really getting good traction in the marketplace with the Captain Cook series, and it very much doesn't look like a submariner. There's room in the marketplace for watches that aren't the submariner or clones or homages of it. And then, of course, in my mind, well, okay, the little big news, because there were two big launches in my mind. Um, Jamie over at Just One More Watch launched his Erebus uh, watch line, which they're what, $300 to $500 good basic, or might even be less than that. I think they're like three and change, but give or take. But they're good basic sports watches that look good. And Jody, I think, has got a good. Yeah, I believe it's Jody at Just One More Watch. He's got a really strong passion for the marketplace, and I don't think this is just a money grab on his part. It's nice to see um, how various watch people express themselves in the marketplace, as it were. Because I mean, if you look at someone like Teddy Baltazar, I watched him for years, and I remember when he didn't have any, business side, and then I think he picked up a strap factory first, and then now he's an authorized retailer for quite a few brands, doing quite well for himself. Kudos to Teddy Baltazar, and he did a lot of that this year. So this has been a very decent year for the watch industry. And then the big news in my mind, not Rolex buying Buchera, although that was big news as well, and turned out to be more of a let's wait and see what happens because so far it appears that nothing has really changed at either Rolex or Buchera, which makes you wonder. But the big news in my mind is Breitling, their intent to reignite and rekindle and bring back Universal Genève. I think that's big news. I think the fact that Breitling, as opposed to other companies, also is important when it comes to Universal Genève because Universal Genève was considered a poor man's Patek at that point. When they were really hot, they were highly respected by a lot of people, and they made complicated dress watches, the tri-compacts and the like. And Breitling is also known for making complex watches of that style, and they've got a couple that could be arguably dressed, like they have that new salmon calendar, which is beautiful. But adding Universal Genève will give them an opportunity to make beautiful, complicated dress watches at a higher price point than their current line. I Arguably they could come out with watches at a similar price point, but I'm thinking that the Universal Genèves will probably start at the $8,000 to $10,000 range, whereas Breitling's started around the $5,000 range. So I think them buying Universal Genève is a good business move for Breitling, but it's also good move for the industry because we could use a resurrection of Universal Genève. We could use some beautiful, complicated dress and business casual watches. Not every watch has to be a sports chronograph. Why not a business casual dress chronograph? I mean, look at how the Hamilton Breitling also has a nice bicompax, but I'm really thinking of that. The Hamilton bicompax is a really nice piece, and shows that you don't have to have a diving bezel or a timing bezel on your watch all the time. Let's see. Um, but yeah, the Breitling and Universal Geneva news, I think, is significant. Let's see. The Rolex bubble bursting in the gray market, I think, is noteworthy. Uh, it's mostly, a lot of people were talking about how everything's falling and the prices are collapsing. I still see retail as the soft floor to Rolex gray market prices, because as long as you can't get that watch, the retail, I mean, the gray market price on used or not affirmed uh, heritage watches are going to stay high. I mean, an Air King is still about 9K. It never really got that high during the bubble. The bubble was more for the more desirable watches, but the mainstream Rolex pieces haven't really changed a lot in prices. And unfortunately, that bubble created some upward pressure in the market as a whole. So everybody's already shifted their prices upward at retail. Some companies ridiculously, JLC. Uh, I still don't I have a Polaris myself, and the Reverso is a classic. But JLC's markup this year of across the board 40% was almost diabolical. I mean, it makes it hard to. I mean, you can respect them for wanting to reposition the brand, but you don't have to necessarily like it. Let's see. I mentioned Rolex buying Buchera, and like I said, the jury's still out on that. The certified Rolex pre-owned is out there and got some traction, but not a lot. Buchera hasn't really changed much, at least not here in Germany, and they're very strong here in Germany. Buchera is in all the major cities here, and yeah, I was worried that Rolex would flex a little hard, use their muscles in the marketplace, but it seems more like they're just maintaining the status quo, which is okay, but I was hoping for a little bit more imagination from them. But then again, conservative works too, I guess. They are a conservative company. Brent, how's it going? And Jimmy, I really like the Air King I have. I like it too. I've always had. I think if you've watched the show for any length of time, I have a love-hate relationship with Rolex, and they really do have some nice pieces in their stable. And I had an Explorer 2 before I bought the Air King, and I like the Air King more than I like the Explorer 2, even though the Explorer 2 is a more complicated piece. It has a second time zone. But the Air King, it's just, especially the new version, I was lucky to get my hands on the new one. It really is a nice watch, and it runs on rails. I put it on the time grapher just the other day, and it's still +1, +2 seconds, and really high amplitude. Just a nice, accurate three-hander, no date. And there's an appeal to just a straight up three-hander, I mean, well, okay, wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Zenith El Primera Chronomaster. It's a chronograph, but it's a no date chrono. And one of the advantages of a no date is you just set it for the hour. You don't even have to go more than 12 hours out of range to just set it for whatever the time is and not worry about the date or other complications. So no date watches, three-handers especially, or just have a cleanliness to them that are just appealing. Um, Smaller watch cases coming back. I don't think that the industry is going to shift back to small watch cases as a rule, but There'll still be larger watches. I mean, I'm not going to wear a 35 millimeter on an 8.5-inch wrist unless maybe with a suit or a tuxedo. Um, but I like the fact that now you can get a lot of mainstream watches in smaller sizes, like the Heritage Diver. The Longines was 42. Now in 39, it's more accessible. As I've said before, I think watch sizes are not going to go all the way back completely down, although you can get 35s and 36s for a lot of watches today. But I think that the median size is going to float between 39, 42. Well, 42 will be on the upper end, 35 at the very lower end, but the sweet spot is going to be probably around 39 to 40. A 40 is a good size for just about every wrist that's relatively large without being too comically large for smaller wrists. And then for people who have smaller wrists, you can go with a 39 or a 38. So I like the fact that watch sizes are becoming more of an offering as opposed to this is the size you get. You don't like it, buy another watch. So the growth of availability in different watch sizes, I think, is an important thing in the marketplace. If you hear any weird noises, obviously it's New Year's, and Germany doesn't have a fireworks ban, although they're talking about one because last year there were a lot of incidents where partiers shot fireworks at firemen and policemen and first responders for serious things like fires. In fact, I believe a bus was set fire and it was in an underpass over a building, and the building almost caught fire. All kinds of messed up stuff. So they're debating a fireworks ban in Germany. I don't know how well that'll go over because, ironically, for a country that's very straight laced and organized, they have a couple of places where the gray areas where the Germans really like to have fun, and fireworks is one of them. So it'll be really curious to see where that goes. So if you do hear any strange noises, it's probably fireworks. I don't think I fart that loud. Um, let's see. Oh, yes. The French fined Rolex $100 million, or roughly $100 million, for bad trade practices. Some people knew it. It went under the radar for some, but basically the French government um, said to Rolex, "You're not selling online, and there's no reason why you shouldn't sell online." And Rolex is like, "Well, we want to control our market," and the French are going, "Yeah, fine, but we like to have a more balanced marketplace, and if you can't sell online, well, other watch companies do, so put up or shut up." And so the French fined Rolex $100 million for not selling online. I don't know if that's going to make them sell online. They may do some fancy dancing and get some lawyering done and maybe convince the French government to stop bothering them about it. But it'll be very curious. I'll be very curious to see what happens with that, because if Rolex does start selling online, will it be lip service? Will they have everything for sale online and it's just never available? Or you go into some kind of weird online waiting list for it? It'll be very interesting to see where that goes. What are your ideas for some of the interesting news for the year? Let's see. Some really nice stuff from Studio Underdog this year. They're doing some interesting stuff with colors, and it's nice to see colors becoming more of a thing with watches again. I really like the trend that I'm seeing: more colors, more colorful pieces. The new Tissot, those colorful racing pieces, the different new versions, even the Oris Kermit. The fact that more color, more interesting varieties of availability of watches, I think, is a very good thing myself. Let's see. Oh, some of us. Good one, TH. So let's see. Oh yeah, there were a couple of nice releases. Like the Seiko 5 GMT was a really nice release, and then Bulova came out very recently with the Devil Diver GMT and the that dress GMT. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. And one of the things I really wanted to point out about it is the Miyota, that mainstream Miyota GMT is, in my mind, a more useful GMT than the Seiko 5, because the Seiko 5 GMT and the new Alpinist GMT are both office GMTs and not travel GMTs like the Miyota movement that's in the Bulova and the New Citizen GMTs. Now, that's, a value call, because some people prefer an office GMT because that's how they use it. They're tracking other time zones from home, whereas I travel, and so do a lot of other people, and the ability to be able to change the local hour hand while you're traveling is more appealing to a GMT owner that wants a travel GMT. I think I'll make an episode. I've had an episode talking about GMTs and comparing GMTs, but I think I probably should put together just a basic how to use a GMT. Although I have 3 GMTs on hand, but I currently have none with a GMT bezel. I got a Seiko Prospects Solar Sumo on loan from Seiko. The channel's big enough now. I'm getting loaner watches, which is a nice thing as well this year. Interesting turn, and that's a travel GMT, Court Solar GMT, but beautiful piece. I love the color of the face, and there are some good travel GMTs from Seiko. It's just that the Seiko 5 GMT is an office GMT. But again, it is a functional, useful watch, and it looks really nice. I mean, I have a review of it myself. I picked up one and I owned it I was tempted to hold on to it. It really is a nice watch, the Seiko 5 GMT. Just giving it a little dig because it's an office and not a travel GMT. But people have different needs for GMTs, and your mileage may vary. Let's see. L Train, greetings from Vermont. Brent, I got a really good deal on one of those blue Hydro Conquest GMTs. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one. I hope you like it. Send me a text, and tell me what you think about it. But I'm very curious myself to hold one in my hands, because that's the ultimate test for a watch. You can really tell a lot about a watch holding it, because pictures don't always do it justice. Like I was going to get the Devil Diver GMT, but I decided the Pepsi version is a little too shiny for me, and the black and white just wasn't talking to me. I haven't seen the Citizen version of the GMT in the flesh or the metal either yet, so I have to hold my counsel on that. But I am very interested to get my hands on the Longines Hydro Conquest GMT. I wish you well with that purchase. Let's see. Jimmy John, I'd like to add a GMT to my modest collection. Yeah, that would be a good addition to any collection. I shouldn't say you should have a GMT. It's not like about box checking GMT. But GMTs are useful watches, especially if you travel. Even if you just use it, well, that's the advantage of the office GMT there, is that you could be just someone with international offices, and you've got to get in on a conference call with somebody 3 time zones over. Just America, the fact that it's 3 hours between California and New York, and a couple of hours in between Mountain and Central and all, uh, just calling around in a corporation that straddles the continent is an excuse to have an office GMT. So that's why I'm not bashing office GMTs, because they have a legitimate use in the horological space, as it were. It's not a bad function. It's just, for some people, it's not as convenient. That's all. Let's see. I do like the Avenger colors. I was never a yellow person, but I'd consider it looking for another chronograph. Well, Is that's another thing, the nice thing about the, Swatch special editions, like, think of those Blancpains. You can get one, people might think you're a fan of a certain football team with the yellow and black, but nice, bright, interesting colors, and like I said, those Tissot racers too are like that, and, um, Omega, of course, does a lot of colors, and, well, Oris does, and it's just nice to see a lot of colors being made more available in the marketplace, in my humble opinion. Let's see, Jimmy, I can't wait to see some of my reviews. Well, thank you. And we've got, oh my goodness, over 400 videos in the archive. You should take a look at some of the older videos I did. Even some of the very first episodes to me now look a little clunky and amateurish, but the watches in those videos are still pretty nice. Let's see. Brent, travelers GMTs have gotten a lot more affordable. This is true. And especially now that there's a Miyota travel GMT out there, I've already started seeing good, I'm not sure of the prices, but under $1,000 GMTs from some micro brands already out there using the Miyota movement. I think that movement's going to see a lot more traction in the marketplace as well in a lot of other different pieces because it's a good, inexpensive travel GMT movement that, the nice thing about Miyota is they're not like Swatch. They'll sell a movement to anybody with the money, of course. Let's see. Everyone's saying hi to each other. It's always nice because that's the nice thing about having a community is that everybody enjoys the company of their peers. And that's what I was saying before about, breaking 4,000 subscribers with this channel this year is it's a community. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Without you, there wouldn't be the dynamic interchange we have in live streams. And I'd just be some old guy who likes watches yelling at his walls, the fact that we're here together sharing this moment and talking about watches, I think is important. The fact that it's a exchange, it's a community. It's not just me talking at you. I read everything you all say, and I answer I even answer the stuff where people are arguing against some of the things that I talk about. Like I'm constantly discussing fake watches on the in the comment sections on the episodes where I smash them. People are like, why are you smashing them? I'm like, because they're fake. Someone sent me recently, well, what's a Batman anyway? It's just a GMT steel watch. I'm like, what's so special about it? I'm like, the fact that you want it because it says Rolex on it, that's what's special about it. The Rolex name is what's special about it. Rolex is over a century old, and they spent time, money, effort, energy, innovation to develop that reputation that someone else is just stealing by slapping their name on a copy. And maybe people are in denial, but I mean, I still don't understand why people can't see that basic fact is that the name isn't just a name. If it were just a name, you wouldn't want it so badly. You want that name because that name represents something. And that name represents something because the company put time, effort, human ingenuity, horological advance, keeping it running well. Rolex isn't just a fancy name; it stands for something. And so, or Breitling, because the episode, ironically, was on the Breitling, which is my number one video, by the way, where I compare the two Breitling GMT Navitimers and show the failings in the fake. And the fake is obviously not as good. I mean, when you talk about a three-hander, it's easy to make a fake. But make a fake open heart Zenith El Primero Chronomaster, right? With an silicon escapement. Ain't happening, you know? Which is another reason I like complicated watches. They're harder to fake. Let's see. Thank you, L Train. Said well said. Let's see. Oh, we got so many comments. I got to scroll back up. Well, I lost the beginning of it. Let's see. The Laurier Hydra GMT is $600. Laurier has been making a real name for themselves in the micro brands. They're good watches. They really are. I'm not sure if that's a traveler myself, as Brent asks. James, I did not really consider the different GMT functions until YouTubers made a big deal about it 2 years ago. Well, I've always been a big GMT fan, and as a journalist, I travel a lot, and so I've always been a travel GMT fan. But I do recognize it has become an issue lately, and I think that's because of number one, GMTs becoming more affordable, becoming more populous. I remember a few years back there weren't that many GMTs available from various companies. Now everybody offers a GMT pretty much, you know. So I think it's also the fact that there are more choices in the GMT space gives people an opportunity to talk and compare. Let's see. Peprex, by the way, hi. Oh, so it uses the Miyota, the 9075. So it's a travel GMT. See, Laurier, but they're good. Again, perfect example. Really good micro brands using that Miyota movement to make really nice pieces. There are some other really nice travel GMTs out there, new at the like I said, under $1,000. I'm hoping to get my hands on some for the show. Let's see. TH, my next watch is going to be a GMT, and I'm going to just have to find one that's 42 diameter or more that appeals to me. Well, if you want a big one, get your hands on a Breitling Navitimer GMT. Those are huge. I think mine's 44. But there are some good GMTs out there at large sizes. A lot of the IWC GMTs are huge because IWC makes a lot of big watches. My Sansupri GMT, I think, is a 42. I have to take a look at that, check that. But I've got a review on it. You can take a look. Let's see. Brent at James, I like the jumping hour hand function. My Planet Ocean has it also, even though it is not a GMT. It's a nice feature. Well, a lot of Omegas, like uh, the Aquaterra three-hander, well, has date, but the Aquaterra has a jumping hour hand as well. A lot of Omegas have jumping hour hands, which I think is a very convenient function because it may not be a GMT, but yeah, it's easy to change the local time without hacking the movement, which I think is a good thing. Let's see. Jimmy John, when I first started watching you, I only had a couple hundred subs. I wouldn't believe I didn't have more. Oh, you like me. I'm appreciated. I really do. Well, I'm just a guy who's a collector who's just talking on the show, and I don't promote. I don't spend any money to promote and all. So this has all been organic growth that I've been very pleased and humbled by. So I'm just as happy and surprised as you that I've got as many subscribers as I have, and I appreciate you all being a part of it. I really do. Let's see. James Duffy. I prefer it too, but I never thought much about its convenience or difference. Well, like I said, now that there are more pieces out there, more people have the opportunity to compare. An interesting GMT is the Tag Heuer Carrera 2 skeleton GMT because that is a quick set date and a traveler GMT because most office GMTs, you turn the crown in one direction and it changes the date, and you turn it in the other and it changes the GMT hand. In the case of the Tag Heuer, you turn it in one way and it changes the date. You turn it in the other way and it changes the local hour hand. So it's a travel GMT with a quick set date, which is rare. That's another big one if you want a big GMT, the Tag Heuer Carrera 2. Let's see. I don't know. James, when you say true, a true GMT is one where you can just independently set the hands. Which hand determines whether it's a travel or an office. So I'm not a big fan of the term true GMT for a travel GMT because an office GMT is a true GMT as well as just manifests the functionality in a different way. Let's see. TH is a thick wrister. I can't see as well as he used to. Well, actually, the Carrera 2, even though it's a skeleton, it is a legible piece because the hands are nice and big and loomed, so they do stand out against the face well. So I would say look into that Carrera 2 GMT. Um, they're about 6K give or take. I saw one on sale in Dusseldorf for 5,500, but I was actually tempted to pick it up, but I have too many watches as it is. But yeah, I would if you're a thick wrister, that's a nice wrist presence because I sold mine to my brother-in-law, and he's a big guy, and he loves it, and he's a pilot on the side. He's an anesthesiologist by day. Let's see. Brent, maybe a Planet Ocean GMT, the large one. That's another, yeah. Planet Ocean GMT is a nice piece too. And they do make a Seamaster. Well, they currently don't make a Seamaster GMT, but there is a Seamaster GMT out there, the first generation coaxial. Let's see, the yin yang black and white bezel version is cool. Yeah, I think, like I said, the fact that you can get watches with a lot of different variations, black, white bezel, Pepsi bezel, Batman bezels, variety is the spice of life. Let's see, James, my true comment was meant to clarify the comment above it. Ah, okay, got it. Got it, got it. So, let's see, what else do we have here? The, Citizen Ciosa, that's a nice piece, reminding people that you can have interesting functionality at a reasonable price point, good looking piece. But then there are a lot of really nice watches now in the 500 to $1,000 range that are offering a lot of value, a lot of bang for your buck, really. Let's see, Chinese watches are still going strong. And more are starting to offer their own designs, which I think is an important thing because there are a lot of good homages out there from Chinese brands, but there are Chinese brands that are putting out some interesting designs of their own, like Siga Design, who a couple of years ago won the challenge category in the the Geneva Horological Society's awards, annual awards. Yeah, they're worth keeping an eye on. And, oh yeah, Rolex's style, renovation, they finally came out with display back watches, The fact that a lot of the latest crop of Rolexes are display backs, I think that that's an acknowledgement that if you have a high-end mechanical piece today, it should be a display back. You can get away with a metal back if it's, like, nicely, engraved or something, and it's not the primary aspect of the watch, that its identity is mechanical. But in a world where being a mechanical watch is a special thing, put a display back on your watch, I mean, a nice display back can really, 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 go far. There we go. A nice display back can go really far to bringing out the beauty in a piece. And the Zenith El Primero, that design has been around forever. Uh, was it tied with Seiko for the first integrated automatic chronograph? The Tag Heuer was a modular movement, but also worthy of horological recognition. But the Zenith El Primero, the first El Primero, although, like I said, tied with the Japanese. The Pogue, actually, which has its name from the Air Force colonel that went into space with it, which shows you how history and personality are closely tied to watch history and watch values. I mean, think about how many watches are famous because the right person wore them at the right time. And we can go on a small scale from like Brando's GMT Master to Paul Newman making a couple of watches famous. Let's see. And I mentioned the Nevada Grinchen revival with the Value 23. I think that's something to really give respect. And speaking of companies that have, released pieces to gain respect in the industry, we have to give a nod to Christopher Ward and the Bel Canto. You know, it's interesting to see companies take the trouble to make watches to get respect of the industry. And yes, it's a business thing at one side of it because without respect, no one's going to buy your pieces. But on the other side, they are creating horologically, not holographically. They're making horologically significant pieces. There's a lot going on out there. So, what watch news do you all know of? Let's see. El Primero movement is beautiful. Yeah, and it is. It really is. Um, so yeah, so that was the year that was. Had a lot of really, really interesting things go on in the marketplace. Some new watch releases, some really big industry moves. I think the biggest move in my mind is that Breitling is going to resurrect Universal Genève. I think that's. I have a Senna myself, Universal Genève Senna, but that was a last gasp of a dying company. They tried to resurrect Universal Genève. They even came out with a nice micro rotor piece a few years back, but the company was never able to really resurrect itself. But I think now that Breitling, mainstream company with the resources and the talent to properly rejuvenate the brand, I think that's going to be a good thing. So, we've been rolling for about 40, 45 minutes, and the noise is starting to build up outside. Hopefully you can't hear it yet. Is the nice thing about a nice directional close mic. Um, but yeah, I'm going to close out as well. L Train, everybody, James, Brent, TH, everybody take care. Have a fantastic year. I'll see you next year. We'll have an episode again, of course, next Sunday. And take care. I couldn't do this without you. And tell your friends, ask them to subscribe too. If everybody who currently subscribes asked one person to join them, we'd hit 10K by middle of next year. That's um, my goal for the end of next year is if we can get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of next year, um, I'll do a giveaway. We'll find a watch and we'll let everybody get a free raffle, and we'll do so. If we hit when I hit 10,000 subscribers, we'll do something special. But I'm very, very pleased that we managed to hit 4,000 this year. I really am, and couldn't do it without you. Take care, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. Love you all, and see you next year.